New prop pipe. Check it out. It was actually quite difficult to find a straight stemmed 50s style pipe, but found one. Anyway, that's irrelevant to today's point, so let's get started.
Another world, another time, in the age of wonder. Another world, another time. His land was green and good.
So a friend of mine, a fellow edgelord game designer, Venger Satanis, recently released a product called Guardians of the Galaxy XXX as a kind of parody, I guess, in the spirit of the porn parodies that you see of various things. And he put this up on Drive-Thru RPG, One Bookshelf RPG now, and it was promptly pulled, probably, almost certainly, on the basis of copyright grounds. Now, it turns out, as it happens, that there is already a Guardians of the Galaxy XXX parody film.
And they call themselves the Nardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
Yep.
Now, I'm not one to just blindly support someone, and this kind of skirts the edge for me. It's not something I would particularly engage in, but we do see a lot of these, and they do appear to be legal, or at least not sued. We've seen something, the XXX parody, over and over again in quite high quality production porn films. And if they're not being sued into oblivion, then what's going on? So I decided to go around and do a little reading. It turns out that these kind of things are very much an edge case, in that there's not really any full-on hardline judgments either way on this. In looking around, what I found was that a lot of these movies seem to get away with it, and the companies that own the intellectual properties that they're parodying or riffing off of, or however you want to put it, just seem to kind of deny their existence. And in some cases that's a bit of a shame, because in some cases these companies do a much better job than the proper ones. I mean, Kimberly Kane is the Wonder Woman we all deserve. Now, there are rulings that you can't just take existing intellectual property characters, put them in a pornographic situation and be fine as regards copyright. Just making porn of it isn't considered making it into a parody. So that seems a little weird when you look at things like the actually rather brilliant 60s Batman porn parody, which is obviously made with love and attention to detail. You look at something like that and it's obviously just kind of taking the thing and putting it in a porn situation. Where's the parody element, and how are they getting away with it? There's speculation on some parts that there are secret deals in the background. There are basically kickbacks to the intellectual property owners. It's possible, I suppose. I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but money talks and bullshit walks. It's more likely, I think, from my point of view, that they just don't want to acknowledge these things. They don't want to give them publicity, and they don't want to be connected with or attached to them, and they feel that giving them attention, even negative attention, would just engage the Streisand effect. Surely some companies have come to understand that, even as others haven't. At least that would be my speculation. Now, if you don't care about porn, if you don't consider it art, if you don't consider free expression rights to apply there, this isn't just an issue when it comes to porno. When you do homages to work, like I did in Agents of Swing, even if you change material, people's interpretations of what's going on here can put your work at risk. When I made Agents of Swing, it was a love letter to the adventure serials and the spy fiction of the 60s and 70s, and I made a huge array of example characters in it, and they were all kind of plays on, or distortions of, or knockoffs in essence of the characters from those 60s and 70s things, but with different names and slightly different interpretations. And a lot of people made a kind of game out of going through and figuring out who each character was supposed to be. In one game that I ran at a con, every player almost was playing a different version of a character by Roger Moore. So you had the Saint, you had James Bond, and so on. That was a lot of fun. So are those things okay? I would say in that case, yes, obviously, since I did it, I changed names, I changed characters a bit. It was obviously a love letter to this stuff, and it was much older, I guess, which is a factor that comes in. Older properties people don't care so much about. But what about modern and ongoing properties? You have artists, and not necessarily ones who've worked for the comics, producing paintings and drawings and prints and so on of characters from comics and films and so on, and selling them. Is that okay? They're creating original but derivative works. Is that alright? If you go to a gallery in a shopping mall, you will quite often find sort of paint-printed pictures of images from films, directly taken from it, like scenes from The Godfather or whatever. And it's not clear at all whether they're licensed or not. Is that okay to have a still from a famous film paint-printed up on a canvas and then up on your wall? Where are the boundaries here? And what makes something qualify as a parody? What takes over the line where it's okay? I can't particularly fault One Bookshelf in this instance from pulling it, because it's not theirs. They're not the one taking the risk here. That they're putting out this thing for someone, and that puts them at potential legal risk. In this instance, they don't have deep pockets, they don't have attachment to the fact that they've produced it themselves. Their formerly fairly strong free speech stance has declined over the years, as I've encountered firsthand. So, combine all those things together and it's understandable why they might pull this. But it's not clear at all where that line is between acceptable parody and copyright infringement. And there's been no real test case to really define it at the level we need to now. Anyway, like an indifferent hand job from a tired masseuse, there's a somewhat happy ending to all this. Venger is going to change the cover, change the name slightly, and then it's going to be considered acceptable. So wherever that line is, I guess we have a slightly better idea of where it is now. But a good, useful cautionary tale for the future, and an interesting aspect of copyright law, intellectual property law, and all the rest for everyone to consider. For my part, I think things should be as loose as possible, but as someone who produces intellectual property, I can sympathise with people who want to defend it. I just think I would be a little more forgiving and a little less paranoid, and I wish stuff entered the public domain a lot sooner than it does. Zang.
Holy conspiracy!